Hello, dear beloved audience of Hoài Ca channel. We meet again in an incredibly tense and dramatic situation. Hoài Ca and a mysterious young woman are being threatened by a group of thugs who seem to have violent intentions. What is really going on? Why are these strangers attacking Hoài Ca and the woman accompanying her? Who is this mysterious girl, and could she be connected to Hoài Ca's past? As the situation becomes increasingly dangerous, we can't help but wonder, where is Hung? The man who once vowed to protect Hoài Ca with his life. Will he appear in time to save her from danger? But it's not just Hoài Ca. Another single mother will also face a major turning point in her life. Two women, two fates. How will they weather the storm? Stay tuned to witness the full developments of this gripping, emotional, and suspenseful story in today's video. And don't forget, if you enjoy the content on Hoài Ca channel, please hit the like button. Leave your thoughts in the comments and especially subscribe to our channel so you won't miss any upcoming episodes. On the familiar village road covered in golden dust, Hoài Ca and Hung return together to the old cornfield, a place filled with memories from a time of hardship. The small house where Hoài Ca once lived with her son stood amidst the trees, simple and peaceful, as if time had never touched it. It was also the place where Hung had once given shelter to Hoài Ca and her child during the most difficult chapter of her life. This time they planned to harvest the remaining corn left over from the season. As they reached the edge of the property, Hung went off toward the village entrance to buy sacks for the corn, while Hoài Ca slowly walked into the small garden. The path was overgrown with grass, and the flower pots by the porch had been tended to by someone else with new plants growing in them. Beneath the dust of time, the space still retained the warmth it once had. Hoài Ca paused at the doorway, silently taking a deep breath, as if trying to hold on to something familiar that had once meant everything to her. The silence was broken by a faint sound from the backyard, pulling her out of her reverie. A young woman appeared, her face marked by a mixture of hesitation and caution. Her rustic appearance and sincere demeanor were evident in every gesture. After a brief moment of wariness, recognizing that the visitor was not a stranger, the girl invited Hoài Ca inside. The old house now had new occupants, a single mother just like Hoài Ca had once been. Her name was kindman, and she was staying there with her small child. As it turned out, after learning about kindman's difficult circumstances, Hung had allowed her and her child to temporarily live in the house, just as he had once done for Hoài Ca. In the modest kitchen, the two women sat facing each other, speaking little. One was lost in memories of the past, the other struggling in the harshness of the present. Hoài Ca's eyes lingered on kindman's gaze, filled with gratitude, exhaustion, and a faint glimmer of hope. A flood of memories surged through Hoài Ca's heart. Years ago, she too had been in that exact situation, raising a child alone with no place to call home, unsure of what tomorrow would bring. Now, seeing another mother walk the very same path she had once walked, it was as if she were seeing her younger self mirrored before her. Between them, the atmosphere slowly warmed, filled with mutual understanding and compassion. Words were unnecessary. The things they grasped about each other went beyond anything language could express. In kindman's eyes, Hoài Ca saw respect and quiet determination. And in her own heart, she felt a deep sense of relief, realizing that all her past sacrifices had not been in vain. Sunlight slanted through the wooden fence outside, falling softly on the dry corn scattered across the ground, like fragments of memory being continued by a new generation. Tioman, filled with gratitude and a yearning for a better life, made Hoài Ca nod gently, her heart swelling with a strange feeling, bittersweet, yet warm. Perhaps single mothers, though, strangers to one another, are always connected by an invisible thread, woven from motherhood resilience and the belief that every storm will eventually pass. At that very moment, two men burst in, intimidating in appearance, their eyes cold and filled with menace. Both were dressed in dusty clothes, their faces weathered by the sun, their demeanor unmistakably that of street thugs. The suddenness and aggression of their arrival made Tioman flinch and step back. Though taken aback, Hoài Ca did not panic. She stepped forward, her eyes unwavering, her posture exuding strength and protection. Deep within her, the instinct of a seasoned mother of a woman who had weathered many storms rose to the surface. Without hesitation, she questioned the presence of the two strangers, her gaze locked onto them unflinching. The men didn't bother with pretense. The one in front looked the two women up and down, then coldly demanded to know which one of them was Tioman. Tioman froze, her face pale. Fear was evident in her eyes as she struggled to conceal her identity. Her legs trembled, though she tried to stay upright. Finally, with a voice caught in her throat, she admitted the truth. Immediately, the other man stepped forward and grabbed her arm, yanking her down onto an old chair in the yard, as if to assert dominance. He barked that she had no right to stay here, his tone laced with threat and unjust authority. The scene was unbearable for Hoài Ca to witness. She moved in front of Tioman, eyes blazing with anger. Her protective instinct kicked in before she could even think. Though fully aware of the danger, there was only one conviction in her heart: no one would harm this girl. Not here. Not on the land she once called home. She spoke out firmly, declaring that this place was her house, and if anyone had to leave it, certainly wasn't Tioman. Her voice rang with steel, startling the two men for a moment. Though their hostility quickly returned, they shouted at her to stay out of business that didn't concern her, that this was between them and Tioman. But Hoài Ca stood her ground. She knew that if she backed down today, no one else would stand up for vulnerable women like Tioman in the future. The tension escalated rapidly. The argument grew more heated, voices rising. Suddenly, one of the thugs shoved Hoài Ca forcefully to the side. She stumbled, but managed to stay on her feet. The air grew thick with unease. Terrified, Tioman jumped up, trying to run to Hoài Ca, but the other man restrained her. Everything happened too fast, from the struggle to the sound of furniture being knocked over to the threatening words and the cold gleam in the thug's violent eyes. At that moment, Hung returned carrying a stack of large burlap sacks. As he stepped through the gate, he froze at the chaotic scene before him. Hoài Ca was standing protectively in front of Tioman, while two unfamiliar men were growling aggressively. Without hesitation, Hung pointed directly at the two thugs, his voice booming sharp and commanding like an order. His tone, presence, and composure radiated the authority of a man seasoned by life and duty, causing the entire courtyard to fall momentarily silent. The two thugs turned toward the voice. The moment they saw Hung, they stiffened. No one had expected the man to be him. Hung, a veteran police officer, known for handling numerous complex cases in the region. The hostility drained from their faces, replaced by pale shock. Not daring to act out, the two men bowed their heads, mumbling apologies, trying to appear remorseful. They quickly shrank back, scrambling for an excuse to flee the scene. Fear was etched across their faces like animals sensing danger at their heels. In just a few moments, both had disappeared behind the old fence, leaving behind unanswered questions. Without chasing them, Hung calmly entered the yard, his eyes scanning Hoài Ca and Thieu Man with concern. He set the sacks down to one side and approached them, his voice low but full of care. Hoài Ca nodded, signaling that she was all right. Thieu Man, still in shock, sat motionless on the old chair, her hands trembling slightly. Hung gently pulled up another chair, urging the young woman to sit firmly and take deep breaths. He encouraged her to stay calm and recount everything detail by detail. After a few shaky breaths, Thieu Man finally began to speak, her voice hoarse with emotion and fear. She explained that she didn't know the two men. They had suddenly shown up that morning, claiming they were sent by some lady boss to evict her and her child from the house. Before she could grasp what was happening, they had already begun to threaten her, demanding that she leave that very day. Out of fear, Thieu Man had asked a friend to watch her child, too afraid to bring the little one home. Worried that if violence broke out, it would be the child who suffered most. Upon hearing this, Hung furrowed his brow. This was no longer a simple personal dispute. It was a case of coercion potentially orchestrated by someone behind the scenes. He knew well that every action needed to be brought into the light of the law, especially when a single mother and an innocent child were involved. Hung nodded slowly, then gave Thieu Man careful instructions. He advised her to stay alert, never let strangers enter the house uninvited, and pay attention to any suspicious signs around her. If there were any further threats or acts of violence, she must report them immediately to the local police. Under no circumstances should she try to handle it alone. Sitting beside her, Hoài Ca gently placed a hand on the young woman's shoulder, her gaze full of empathy. She repeated the words she had once said, that no matter what happens, never give up. The worst days will pass. And while no one can promise the future, there are people who will protect you, just as she herself had once been protected. Tears welled in Thieu Man's eyes. She bowed her head, speechless. A swirl of emotion rose within her: gratitude, fear, and a fragile sense of relief. For the first time in many uncertain days, she felt that this place could truly be a home, not just because of walls and a roof, but because of the people willing to stand up for her, even without knowing her. Outside, the sun had climbed high, casting golden light across the ground, filtering through swaying leaves. The cornstalks stood tall in the garden, as if quietly bearing witness to a new chapter being written. Life constantly tests us with unexpected trials, but it is in those very moments that the depth of the human spirit is revealed. And sometimes just a single act of courage, a protective gesture, a timely word of comfort is enough to pull someone back from the edge of despair.
Lúc này chỉ còn lại bà Bảy và Hoài Ca trong căn phòng yên tĩnh. Bà Bảy nhìn thấy vẻ mặt của Hoài Ca, biết rằng cô đang có chuyện buồn. Nhưng bà cũng hiểu rằng đôi khi Hoài Ca không muốn chia sẻ. Bà nhẹ nhàng hỏi: "Cô đã nói chuyện gì với Đô mà sao mặt buồn vậy?" Hoài Ca cố gắng giấu đi những cảm xúc đang dâng trào trong lòng. Cô không muốn bà Bảy lo lắng thêm, nên chỉ đáp một cách nhẹ nhàng: "Cháu không có chuyện gì." Cô nói vậy để xoa dịu không khí, mặc dù trong lòng đang đầy rẫy những suy tư và lo lắng. Bà Bảy nhìn cô một lúc, cảm nhận sự im lặng nặng nề nhưng không ép buộc. Hoài Ca phải chia sẻ: Hai người cứ ngồi đó trong một khoảng lặng. Mỗi người đều có những suy nghĩ riêng nhưng không ai lên tiếng. Còn về Hùng, Hoài Ca không tự hỏi liệu anh có biết sự thật về Tony hay không. Nếu Hùng biết, liệu anh có còn tình cảm với cô như trước nữa không? Những câu hỏi này cứ quay quẩn trong tâm trí cô, khiến cô không khỏi lo lắng. Cô lo sợ rằng sự thật sẽ thay đổi tất cả, và cô không biết liệu Hùng có chấp nhận được hay không. Nhưng trong lúc này, tất cả chỉ còn là những câu hỏi chưa lời giải.